This is the We Get Outdoors podcast. My name is Rob Yates, I am your host, and welcome to this episode. In this episode, we're going to be talking about something primal, something that we still don't quite understand, something that's almost uncontrollable, and arguably one of the most destructive forces known to mankind. Yet also something that's the most fascinating to mankind, something that some people just can't help but poke with a stick. That's right, today we're going to be talking about fire. For those who don't know me, I've spent the past 30 years working at the cutting edge of the professional outdoor industry. I've personally been on expeditions on every continent apart from Antarctica. I've trained over 3,000 coaches, guides and leaders across North America, Europe and Africa, and have run several large adventure sports businesses. Today I spend my time helping adventure sports owners run their business in a way that is Amazon and large outdoor retail chain proof. That's right, no matter what they do, we've still got a business and we're still outperforming them in terms of money. And I have the privilege of training those people in a variety of different outdoor tools and techniques and skills, and this is one of them. In fact, what I'm going to share with you today is a quick glimpse into my 3-day course on fire. That's right, 3 days on fire. How fascinating is that going to be? So let's jump into it. Let's do a quick reality check on fire itself. Fire arguably isn't always the best form of light, heat, and isn't often the most economical way of using the resources around you. However, fire does give a beautiful focal point. It is a wonderful psychological uplift for people. It provides a sense of community, something to sit around, a gathering place. And so while it often isn't the best form of cooking or providing light or providing heat, it is often something that brings people together and makes people physically and psychologically feel better. But we have to ask ourselves, when we have a fire, for what highest positive purpose are we having this fire? Is it a light source, a heat source, a cooking purpose? Is it there to do blacksmithing with? What's the purpose of this fire? When we work out the purpose, we then have to think about the environment about us. I always operate a leave no trace principle, and fires unfortunately do leave a trace if you just rock up somewhere and have a fire. Now in some places in the world that really, I won't say doesn't matter, but isn't necessarily that important, because the ground will heal itself in a relatively short period of time and no other human being will come through that area in the next year or even 10 years. A lot of the expeditions I've guided up far north in North America and far north in Norway and Sweden, you know, the campsites we use, we are the only people who've camped there this year. We may well stay there for a night next year, but nobody else is going to be using this spot because they don't even know where it is. In which case, the natural environment will have the chance to heal itself if we take some sensible precautions. And we don't have time to go into what all those sensible precautions are now. But the next thing we should think about is safety. Now, safety is obvious. The fire needs to be safe for you. You don't want sparks flying and putting holes in you or holes in your tent or anything else. You don't want the fire to get out of control and spread and therefore destroy the environment. Now, just so you know, most fires don't spread when you think they do. Most fires spread when you think your fire is out, and often after you have left the area where you've been having a fire in. Certainly in areas that are very heavily wooded, tree roots have a habit of getting hot and passing the heat from a fire. Imagine a tree root going underneath the fire, passing the heat from a fire for many tens of meters in any one direction away from where you have the fire, which means that the place that starts smouldering may well not be the place that is where you've had your fire. Equally, the ground underneath where you've had a fire can stay hot for weeks afterwards, hence the reason you can have a fire now. You can hike for 5 days, and a fire can start 10 meters away from where your fire originally was that's been smouldering under the ground for that length of time. Heavy areas of peat as well have a habit of smouldering for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And in fact, when you put your fire to bed at night, often we use peat to go over our fire to keep it hot and keep the area smouldering so that you don't have to relight your fire the following morning. So those are the other big things. And the last thing when it comes down to safety in the environment is resources. You're obviously going to need wood. Where are you going to get dry wood from that you can suitably burn? Because we all know that if you just chop down a tree, it's wet and it's full of sap, and it's probably not going to burn that well or burn at all immediately. So we have to consider that as well. But what resources are we really talking about? Well, I'm a real pragmatist when it comes to fire. I believe that in my backpack or on me, I need to carry with me resources, A, to get a fire started quickly, but B, to get repetitive fires started for as long as I think I'm going to be out for, and arguably longer still. So what is it that I carry with me for fire lighting? So I have this little green bag that I carry with me, whether it's in my backpack or whether it's in my my dry bag if I'm canoeing or sea kayaking. And if you want to see any of this I'm about to show you now, what you can do is go and jump into our YouTube channel. I'll put a link somewhere here or you'll find, just go Google search We Get Outdoors YouTube, and I'll put a link so you can see some of this stuff. But I've just been to the store and bought some of these, so I need to top up. But the first thing I carry is fine cotton wool pads. These are the sort that your girlfriend or wife, or if you're a female or if you're a male who loves wearing makeup, this is the sort of pads that you would have to take makeup off. So I carry some of these. I often, in a small tub as well, I'll carry a small tub of Vaseline. This is actually a huge tub of Vaseline. I'm going to decant it. And I carry a flint and steel, which is just a striker that puts sparks off the end. And in this green bag, I carry a couple of handfuls of dry kindling wood, which allows me to light a fire with dry wood even on a pouring day, or quickly when I need a fire to get a fire going. Now this kindling wood, whenever I make a fire, I replenish the kindling wood back into the bag again. I leave the top of the bag open in my tent at night or in my shelter at night, and often when it's cold I'll have this kindling wood either underneath my jacket next to my skin. It'll definitely be in my sleeping bag with me as I sleep, because I want to lose the moisture out of this wood as much as possible so it is bone dry when it comes to having a fire lit on it. And so what do all these things give me? Well, Vaseline is made of petroleum, it's petroleum jelly, therefore it's made of petrol. What will happen if you put a match to petrol? It will light. Cotton wool pads are made of plastic. Plastic is made of petrol or oil, it's made of petroleum, and it lights. So something else that lights, and a flint and steel. Well, we'll talk about all these things, but in this little bag here I've got 120, it says, cotton wool pads, which for me is 120 fires. With my flint and my steel, I've got, well, they say 10,000 strikes on here, so let's just say that's overly ambitious and you're going to do more than one stroke per fire. So I've probably got, I don't know, 3,000 to 5,000 fires in my flint and steel, which means I've definitely got enough 120, what's that, 4 months worth of fires and years worth of fires out of my flint and steel. So let's do a little experiment. You can go and get some of this stuff from your local supermarket. There's, on my course, we cover fire by friction, lighting with other fire tools and other fire designs. This is a podcast. I don't have much time, and I'm going to show you something that I do the entire time and that works all of the time for me and is foolproof no matter where I am in the world. A great little experiment you can do is to go and drop a spark into a piece of cotton wool and just time how long it stays alight for. There we go, it's off and burning now. You can see this on the YouTube channel, of course. You're going to find that a cotton wool ball or a piece of cotton wool on its own like this can last for 45 seconds to a minute, burning nicely as you go. Whereas if you use a cotton wool pad with Vaseline rubbed into it, and we tear it apart a bit and puff it up a bit, do exactly the same things I just did with the other pad, and drop a spark in there, well, there we go, it's off and burning. First time lucky. You're going to find that this cotton wool pad with Vaseline in will burn for about 4 to 5 minutes, which gives us lots and lots and lots of time to get our fire going. So have a little play with that for yourself. You actually, if you want to get really good at this, you can take your cotton wool pad with Vaseline rubbed into it, dunk it under water for a minute, still bring it up, and still put a spark into it and get it going, even though it's soaking wet. So that's the beauty of this cotton wool and Vaseline. So this is burning now. It's a little bit toxic. You might be able to see on YouTube the black smoke coming out the top here. We have to ask ourselves now about, well, what is it that fire needs? So fire needs an ignition source. That's going to be our cotton wool ball and Vaseline and our flint and steel in this case. It needs a fuel, and we've got plenty of that in my bag here. It needs air, and in general terms, for every piece of wood you put on a fire, you want to have a space next to it equal to the size of the piece of wood you put on. So if your piece of wood's as thick as your finger, the space next to it needs to be as thick as your finger. And the last thing that fire needs to be really successful is height. Just like a chimney, you want that heat to rise up. And so as you build your fire structure, those are the things you need to think about. Prepare the base, an ignition source, a fuel source, air to flow through it, and height to get it going. Now, my favourite little way of building a little fire is I really like building this log cabin method, where you just put your bits of wood and stack them up, just as I'm doing now, and just go and check this out on YouTube. And what it does is it produces stability, it produces height, it puts ignition source in there. And I found that pretty much no matter where I am in the world, and no matter what the temperature is about me, this works amazingly well. And you'll see just with these few small bits of kindling that I've used, this fire is now taking off and it's starting to go. In a wet environment, of course, you can build this and then put larger pieces around the outside in some form of heightened teepee, because that actually gives some protection from the elements as well. But there we have it. My thoughts are on lighting a fire for expeditions, or for even 4 months worth of being stuck somewhere in the middle of nowhere. If you're interested in more of this fire lighting, in the reviews say, yes me, I want more fire lighting, or drop me an email, wegetoutdoorstribe@gmail.com, and we'll do some more stuff on fire lighting. I could even maybe do a mini series, or quite possibly when I'm next in North America, we can put something on where we can have a focus on fire lighting for a day or a few days maybe. I don't know. Other things to consider, of course, is the safety around harvesting your firewood, using saws and axes safely, and what exactly, how big a fire do you need? Out of these few little bits of kindling I've got here, I've easily got enough to boil myself a pint or 2 pints of water, and the fire is what, I don't know, 4 inches high by 4 inches wide. And that would be perfect at lunchtime, just to boil some water, or even in the evening just to get food going. So there we have it. I hope that's been useful to you. My name's Rob Yates. I'm your host on the We Get Outdoors podcast. And if you wanted to see any of this stuff in live and in person, go check it out on our YouTube channel. Just go and search We Get Outdoors in YouTube and you will find all of this, including this burning beauty in front of me on YouTube. That's it from me, and I look forward to joining you again very soon.